Damn it. There we go. You can tell, see... Wow, we already got people on. I my old man side is showing. I started the live stream and I was like, why do I just see my feet? And I was like, oh, I gotta turn the camera around. So, yeah, guys, I'm just doing a live stream today because things have been difficult. They've been really good, and they've been difficult at the same time. So, I want to explain when there's a few more people. What's up, guys? People showing up. Wow, it never ceases to amaze me how fast people respond to the live stream starting up. Like, I really do want y'all to know I appreciate it. Um, like, I'm fairly successful within this genre to the point where I can, like, I'm not going to compare myself to, like, Carl Smith or something like that, but, like, successful enough to the point where I pay the bills with it. So that's what I'm talking about. But it still surprises me when I, like, go live and look, people just start showing up instantly. It's like, I wouldn't show up to my own live stream. But yeah, let's see. Got some real fans. Yeah, I really appreciate it. How am I? Okay. I'll explain in a second. When Oh, you were already on YouTube. Hey, well, as long as you end up on this channel. Um yeah, there's actually a good number of people watching right now. So, let me explain what's going on today, guys. There's no video this morning. It's not because I don't have videos. I actually do have a couple of insane videos. So, the last couple of videos I've done, one of them was a commercial for a product. I say a commercial for a product. It was sponsored by a product, a company. So the kind of focus of the video had to be their product. And then I kind of made a video I wanted to make around it, which is, it's fine, but they paid me, so. But the other video I did, I kind of made out of desperation because I didn't have. I'm working on some long form projects. So not really the kind of stuff I've done before. Really, really going to be really good. But it's taking a long time to film them, so they're just not ready yet. So I was on a pier doing one of those projects, and a guy, had a lure fly back at his face and bounce off his face and like cut him open real bad. And I was like, oh, okay, well here's like a short video I can put up, and that one didn't do very well. I think it's largely just because of the thumbnail. If I go back and I change a few things here and there, it'll probably do better. But all the videos I'm working on right now are like long, detailed projects. And some of them I'm having trouble completing because I can't find anyone who's willing to help me with them. Every time somebody says, hey, I'll help you with it, I just get radio silence after the fact. And it's just like, okay, but like it doesn't get done. So I'm having trouble completing a couple of longer form videos. And here's the thing, because a few of the videos I've done recently have done bad in the algorithm, so they haven't gotten a lot of views. What I have found is that you need to kind of kick your view count up a little bit before you release anything that's important to you, basically. So if I were to come off of these two poorly performing videos with like a passion project, it would probably not do very well just because YouTube is saying, oh, nobody's watching your stuff right now. We're not going to push this thing out because YouTube is weird like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to film a video that I know is going to do well. It's the kind of thing that always does well. And I was going to put that out today, and then I was going to put out these projects that I've been working on and traveling for next week to kind of ride the high of the algorithm swinging back up. But some interesting things happen. So let me tell you guys where I've been at. Let's see. I'm reading some of the comments. If you're wondering why I go silent, I just want to make sure that I'm not ignoring you guys. Bro, where are you at? UK. I'm in Texas, United States. But anyway, where was it going? Oh yeah, so I have got I did a big trip. I'm very, 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 very grateful to the owner of a particular tackle company who I will name and promote once these videos start coming out. I don't want to tell you who it is now because you might guess what we did. But I went out of state for a few days on a big trip to a place I've never been before, and caught some incredible fish that we've never caught on the channel before. And they are the hardest fighting, most powerful fish I've ever caught. Not just for the species, but also like a particular individual fish I caught in one of these videos is the most powerful fish I've ever handled in my life, by a significant margin. So those videos I'm pouring so much into, and they were hard to make, and they took some time to make. And even though um, the gentleman in question who I'm talking about is went way out of his way to accommodate me and basically cut the cost of this trip that I would have otherwise have paid many thousands of dollars for. He cut it down to almost nothing. I still paid airfare, so if you're thinking about it from a business perspective, I still have to be able to calculate the returns on it, and it needs to cover that. So I want these videos to come out in a strong place in the algorithm. So the views are down. YouTube doesn't suggest your content as much. Getting them back up will definitely help. Yeah, that's just because of the stuff I've been making lately. I'm still getting a lot of views on videos. So YouTube is still pushing out certain videos of mine to a lot of people. The frogs for bait one that I did got almost like 1,100,000 right now. The snake one is still climbing. It's the weird bait ones that are doing really well. So it may seem like my stuff isn't getting pushed out. It's because you probably already saw it. So YouTube's not like replicating it to you specifically. But my stuff, some of the older stuff I've done is still doing very well. But yes, I want the new stuff to go out on an upswing. Let's see, Mr. Viz, need to see them huge gars or anything else you got hiding up in the sleeves. Yeah, so I was fishing the other day. So here's what I was going to do. I was going to release a video that I was going to film over the past week because I just got back from this trip. So I was like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to film a particular video that I know is going to do really well because they always do. And I'll release that today. That was my plan. Release that today. And then next week I would release the videos I did on this trip. And it was really hard because here's the thing: the rivers that I'm fishing are all flooded, and they weren't flooded when I was gone. They flooded like the day I got back. Like I'm doing my hand, I'm picturing the chart, the National Weather Service chart that I read when I check on the river levels. It like goes up several feet the day I got back, stays flooded, and now is dropping for the weekend when it's too late for me to get the film out by the weekend. So I was kind of frustrated with that. And here's the thing: these big rivers, when they flood like this, you can still fish them fairly effectively from a boat, but when you're bank fishing, it throws a lot of things off, and it makes it much harder to keep your baits out of snags and to keep it where it needs to be for the fish to find it. My baits kept washing back up into the bank, and it was a nightmare. And I fished for several days on end, unsuccessfully. And then yesterday, if you haven't been on my Instagram, this happened on camera. It was not planned and not expected, and I just happened to have the camera on when it happened. I was filming a bit for Instagram when it happened, so I had a really, really, really rough day trying to fish a new spot on a flooded river. Lost all my gear to snags, lost multiple fish, did not get anything, and I was so hot. So the temperature was insane, dripping sweat, like dripping like off my face, like you actually see it like falling off on the camera. So having lost all my gear, I quit fishing much earlier than I normally do. Normally I would stick it out the entire day because you have to sometimes, but I quit midday because I was out of gear. And I went back to my car, and this ended up being a good thing that I lost all my gear so soon. And I started filming just like this. Vertical format was going to go on Instagram. And in the middle of talking about the fishing and the river fishing, in the middle of doing that, I suffered severe heat exhaustion bordering on heat stroke on camera. So if you go to my Instagram, I put that video up, but language warning, a lot of language in it. And if seeing someone like have a medical emergency on camera would bother you, don't watch it, because I play it off multiple times through the video, because there's always that side of me. There's always the video personality filmmaker thinking through what I'm doing, but I it gets pretty bad at a certain point, and I kind of like go into some like convulsions, and I start involuntarily like bawling on camera, not because I'm scared or hurt or anything or upset, but because when you suffer severe heat stroke, you're so dehydrated that your brain stops working the way it's supposed to. So it gets really scary. But anyway, that happened yesterday and knocked me completely out. So I think I went to bed yesterday around like 8 o'clock, and I woke up today at 11 o'clock, and I still feel absolutely awful. I feel horribly, horribly dehydrated. And I've been drinking multiple different types of liquids, like non-caffeinated, electrolyte-based liquids and water, just constantly. And I'm still not feeling great. And that's only happened to me once before. A few years ago, I got severe heat exhaustion, bordering on heat stroke, and collapsed. And it affected my ability to manage the heat for a couple of months. So hopefully we're not going to deal with that today. What is wrong with you, baby girl? What are you eating? What is that? My dog's. What is she eating? She's trying to eat one of my wife's hair ties. Stop. You cannot have that. Anyway. So that ruined the day yesterday, and it kind of dashed all my hopes of getting a video out by today. So I'm going to try to take it easy today and tomorrow, and I'm going to try to get back out and finish that video on Monday, get it up midweek so I can release the videos I went on a trip for next weekend on a bit of a high in the algorithm. So yeah, go watch that video on my Instagram. It's kind of scary. It was for me at the time anyway. Let's see. Oh yeah. Yo, I'm pretty close with Jesus Zuniga. That's my brother-in-law. You got to meet up and fish sometime. That's cool, man. Super excited for the upcoming videos. Yeah, man, they're going to be fantastic. One of the fish in one of the videos, the one I'm talking about that is so big, I caught on a Daiwa BG 5000, and it destroyed the reel. I have to get a new reel. It burned the interior of the reel so severely that it doesn't work anymore. So I have to go get a new one. What's up? Hey, what's up? Had a scary moment the other day that had me concerned. Oh, yeah, the Instagram story. Yes, it was very... that was not fun. Actually planning a day to get live carp and perch and trying out Houston fishing soon. Let me know if you need to know where to get them. I can tell you where to get them. How's it going from South Africa? That's awesome. I would love to go to South Africa. Hey man, I saw your Insta video. Yeah, take care of yourself. Yeah, it was not fun. Can we get some more carp fishing with European carp gear? Maybe. Maybe. I can confirm that you will see some of that very soon, yes. Let's see. B12, K2, D3, good vitamins. I will definitely look at upping the vitamin game. YouTube only made me aware of your channel a month ago. What? YouTube, get on. What's going on? Well, I am aghast at not finding you eons ago. I am not complaining because I got a year yeah, you got several years worth of videos to catch up on, but really only like the last 2 years are worth watching. Yeah, I mean, everyone finds a channel at some point, even the big channels. I find channels sometimes and I'm like, oh, 1 million subscribers, never heard of you. And then it turns out like they're the best channel ever. Unfortunately, living in the South is part of what we deal with. Yeah, the humidity makes it much worse. The place I went to, I'm not going to say where it is, because here's the thing. If I tell you, oh, this is where I went, you're going to know what I caught. And if I tell you, like, what I caught by telling you where I went, a lot of people are going to see the video and go, oh, yeah, no, I know what he catches. And then your curiosity to click is going to go down. So that's why I'm not telling anyone what I caught. But yes, the place I went got very, very hot at a certain point. But it was not the same type of heat. So it was more manageable for me. And I can manage the heat really well. It just, yesterday just got me. I just stepped outside and it's not any better. Yeah, I mean, it's hot out there. Gonna be hot for a while. I'm trying to read this one comment and there's like oh, there it is. YouTube put a little arrow in front of your comment. I couldn't see it. Love the channel, particularly your tutorial vids. Bullhead fishing guide is my favorite. Yeah, that was one of the early ones I started doing really well, actually. The tutorial videos typically don't do well immediately, but they do perform well over time. That's one of the differences. Like if you want a video to explode within like, a day, tutorials are not the way to go. But if you want a video that will sustain views over a couple of years, they do quite well for that. Oh, that's a lie. Even the videos from 3 to 4 years ago are very good. And I've been subscribed for 2 years and still trying to watch everything. I appreciate that. When I go back and I look through my videos, I am only satisfied with some of the videos I made in the last maybe 2 years. I would say my satisfaction. Look at this. What? 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 Oh God! Oh, baby girl, look over here. Look. She was using my shoulder as a pillow. Stop. Uh, yeah. She's just glad I'm home. I know. Anyway, scooch. I don't find myself satisfied with the filmmaking aspect of a lot of those older videos. I was just not very good at it at the time. The tutorial vids are my favorite, but I'm going to learn the tactics. It's been a big help. I'm going to put them to work tomorrow morning. Which one? I've got a few tutorial videos. I need to do more modern versions of a couple of them. Specifically, I want to team up with a couple of people. I'm going to team up with, oh my God, the H-Town Anglers team and do a new shark fishing one. And the guy I was fishing with on this trip, by the way, is also an insanely experienced shark fisherman. I'd like to involve him in that as well. And I'd like the three of us to create kind of like the end-all be-all of shark fishing tutorial videos. But that's a big project. I'm French. Well, hey, my ancestors are French. Maybe we have a relative back somewhere. The Gar tactics. Yeah, that's one of the ones that I've done recently that's really good. Hey, Psychic Psych Toad showing up. I can always count on you. The Gar videos are so unique and amazing. Yeah, I mean, they're my favorite species of fish, and they're the one that, I mean, you know, I'll probably always be tied to in you know, reputation. If you Google alligator gar, you'll find me at some point. So I'm kind of connected to those fish now. But it's interesting. They really are still very underappreciated. I do meet a lot more people these days that fish for them um, than I used to. You know, it used to be that I couldn't find anyone that fished for them, and now I seem to meet people quite common that do fish for them. I just hope that the people that I'm running into, you know, do understand the importance of catch and release and stuff like that. Fished with shiners last week, and I'm never sure where to hook them. Do you recommend their back or their mouth? Uh, I let me think about that. I'm not the expert to go to on where to hook live bait because rarely use it. But some live bait, if you hook right here and come out this side here and you keep it in front of their eyes, a lot of live baits, you can actually avoid piercing anything vital, and it doesn't close up their mouth so they can still breathe. So try that. And then what's his name? Richard Gene, the fishing machine, hooks shiners through their nose quite often, and obviously he gets incredible results with that. So you could try that aspect. What's my Instagram handle? @ReallyWildlife. We'll be targeting them and the bull sharks in the river while the catfish finish out the spawn. Bull sharks in the river? Where are you going for bull sharks in the river? I want to go with you. Seriously, where are you going? That's interesting. Always catch and release. Yes, sir. Yeah, try not to stab through vital body parts. That's the thing. If you stab them through the back, a lot of people are like, oh, you're not stabbing them through anything vital, but it's like you're still stabbing them in the back. There's still a lot of muscle tissue being torn up and all that stuff. You go through the nose, or you kind of insert it behind this ridge here and out this ridge here. You're avoiding doing a lot of damage. Obviously, you're hooking something. Any kind of bait that you're hooking, you are going to do a significant amount of damage to in regards to the animal trying to survive for a long period of time. But you can prolong the life of your bait by hooking it, I think, through the cartilaginous, bony parts of its face. KHOU11 did a story on the 9-foot whales. I saw the whales. Yeah, that was caught in Italy. And they showed your... Oh, They showed your catch to show local amazing catches. Oh, that's good to know that I'm being brought up even when other people are successful. So, if you guys don't know what he's referring to, probably it's. I would expect the record to be updated soon. Probably the world record Wells catfish was caught the other day, and it's a staggering almost 9.5 feet long. Just incredible big fish. Now, it'll be interesting. I want to know how much it weighs because here's the thing: catfish don't weigh. Wells catfish, the silures, they don't weigh as much as you might think because the vast majority of the catfish's weight, specifically silure, the Wells catfish, is in the front third of their body. So that's almost the shape of their body right there. If you look at my wrist, they're kind of tadpole shaped, big huge head, big huge front third of their body, and the rest of their body, the last 2/3, tapers down, becomes quite thin. Still an incredibly powerful fish. I bet you a Wells could drag a gar backwards, just due to the amount of surface area they have to swim with. But their body weight typically is not quite as much pound for pound, size for size. Gar are very barrel shaped fish from beginning to end. If you look at a big gar's tail, it's like barrel shaped all the way down to the caudal fin, whereas the silures, they get thinner as they go. So even a 9.5 foot Wells, I don't know if that would break 300 pounds. Whereas if you caught a 9.5 foot arapaima, that would be gigantic. It'd be like 350 pounds. You caught it in a 9.5 foot alligator gar, that would be like 400 pounds. A 9.5 foot sturgeon would be well over 400 pounds. Like, it's just the shape of the catfish that gets their weight a little deceptive, but 9.5 feet long is remarkable, pushing so close to that magic, unattained, never observed 10-foot mark of true bony freshwater fish. There are so many fish, arapaima, gar. I'm not counting sturgeon because they can, historically have been saltwater for part of their life, so not true freshwater fish. And I'm not going to count rays either because even though the giant whiptail is a true freshwater fish now, you have this massive disc with a very long whipped tail. It's not like the length of the body that continues. So that's why I said for bony fish, whereas a ray would be a cartilaginous fish. You don't have any examples in real life of any bony fish in fresh water truly reaching 10 feet in length. True freshwater fish. It's never happened. You'll hear people all the time, even like influencers that I like and support and stuff. They'll do like educational videos on like different fish and they'll be like, the alligator gar can you reach 10 feet long? It's like, no, it can't. No, it can't. And they never have. They can't and they never have. The biggest one I think in all of history was probably under 9 feet long. And I'm not saying like observed, because the biggest one I ever observed was 8 feet 5 3/4. I'm saying like if I think about the biggest one that's ever lived, I bet you it was not 9 feet long. Same thing with arapaima, maybe 9 feet, not 10. That last foot makes a ton of difference. So there's only been a few that have reached 9.5 feet. One of them was the Mekong giant catfish. The record Mekong was like 9'6" or 9'7", something stupid big. And then now this Wells catfish is up there too with it in length, but still not 10. It's getting close though. It's getting close. Who knows? Those Wells, I mean, maybe they'll get to 10 feet. Traditionally in the UK and in Germany, where the water's cold, they never got that big. It wasn't until they were introduced to Italy. I think the Po River in Italy is where this one was caught, and Spain and France, where the water gets much warmer, that they started growing to these sizes, and that was within the century. So it's quite possible we have not seen how big they get yet. It'll be fun. It'll be cool. I'm hoping somebody breaks a 10-foot mark with a bony freshwater fish. It'd be really cool to see. Let's see. Bull sharks in the Atchafalaya River in central Louisiana. We caught a few on live stream last year. Really? Freshwater bull sharks in Louisiana. Okay, I'm just going to say, like, right now, if you ever feel like inviting me, just give me the word and we'll film it. I've always wanted to catch a freshwater bull shark. That would be cool. I kind of did in Florida. This is more like brackish water. It doesn't really count because it was so near the coast. You've become the rough fish messiah with all the carp, gar, catfish, bowfin, etc. I think that's by far the best type of fishing content to watch, especially paired with your filmmaking skills. I appreciate it. Uh, the rough fish messiah. I don't know about that. That's the thing. I honestly don't spend enough time on fishing YouTube to know who like I'm in contention with for some of these things. I really don't care that much. Most of my time on YouTube is spent watching like movie stuff or I watch a lot of science channels. Like technically, yes, like zoology is obviously science, and my fishing channel falls into a category of zoology. That's the whole point. But like physics stuff, like watching people like do crazy physics experiments on YouTube, is amazing. I love watching that kind of stuff. I love watching movie review channels, things like that, mixed martial arts stuff. That's how most of my time on YouTube is actually spent. So I don't actually know who else is doing what I do. There's probably someone out there who's good at it. Hi, Shelton. Shelton? Is there somebody else out here named Shelton? I'm not Shelton. I was wondering how long you've been using. Okay, you were on the wrong channel. Yeah, wrong video. Uh, Hi Shelton. I was wondering how long you've been using Chi cat spray for your female cat summer allergies. By the way, I love your informative videos on feline disciplinary action measures while blind. Well, now I want to watch Shelton's channel. That sounds interesting. Maybe I can apply some of those feline disciplinary measures to this little ball of fur right here. Yeah. Oh, da, 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 da. All right, give Shelton my love. As far as hooking a live bait goes, a predator fish always tries to eat prey head first. Well, that's true, but I mean, if you're fishing, like, let's say you're using a shiner and you're going to catch a 6 pound largemouth, it doesn't matter where on that fish you hook it when it comes to how you're going to hook that bass, really. Because they're just going to, take the whole thing at once. I think if you are using bigger prey, uh, like bigger bait fish, then it might matter. What about the Mekong perch? I'm having trouble thinking about what is the Mekong perch? The Mekong giant catfish. There's the Nile perch. There's the Tanganyika perch. I don't know the Nile perch off the top of my head. All right, I'm sorry, I don't know the Mekong perch off the top of my head. I can't picture that fish. We used to always say 5 pound striped bass would pull a 10 pound black bass if tied tail to tail. Yeah, I believe you. I haven't caught a striper, but I've caught a hybrid, and it's shocking. I thought I hooked into like a 4 or 5 foot gar when I hooked my first hybrid, because they were all in the same area, and I hooked it, and it was like hitting a brick wall, and I was like, oh, that feels like a gar, like it's a big one, and then it started pulling drag on a 4500 pen. What model reel was that? I can't remember the good ones, the expensive ones. What are those expensive pens called? The all metal bodied ones. Spinfisher. Started pulling drag on a 4500 Spinfisher, and I was like, "Oh, this is a good fish," and it turned out to be a hybrid bass. So yeah, they could do it. What are the chances there's one right under 9 feet currently living? Uh, Depends what you mean right under 9 feet. So I mean like there are fish currently living, very likely, that are at least 8.5 feet long. The world record was only caught less than about 10 years ago, I think. I think 2011 is the date I have in my head. They caught the world record in Mississippi, 8 foot 5 and 3/4. So, when you say just under 8 foot 5 and 3/4 is like that far under 9 feet, you know? And then mine was that far under the world record. And then there's been plenty of people who have caught gar at very like that much shorter than mine. There's been a few guys on YouTube who have caught him like 8 foot even, things like that. So 8 foot is not very common at all, but it's not like uncommon. You know what I mean? Like they're out there. There are there are probably fish 8.5 feet long out there. Are there any that are 9 feet long? I don't know. The problem is that there's never been a fish documented to that size, like reliably. There have been fish documented to 8.5 feet long in the past, or at the very least, there have been fish observed, even if they weren't like officially documented. It's very reasonable to say that the fish in that photograph from 1965 or whatever very likely is 8 feet long, 8.5 feet long. Could weigh 300 pounds. But there's never been one that's like, yeah, that one's 9 feet long. Yeah, that one is 400 pounds, because that that foot of size makes a big difference in weight. It really does. So I'm trying to think. I really do think the world record is the largest one that's ever been known to exist. At least out of the fossil record. I don't know enough about the fossil record of alligator gar to know if they've found one that would suggest a larger size than 8.5 feet. But all the old photographs that you see, and people are like, "Oh, it's a 10 footer," and none of those are reliable. Not even the least bit reliable. I think the world record really is the largest one ever to have known to have existed. Not just confirmed, not just measured, not just recorded officially for the record book. I think that's the largest one that's ever been known to have been alive. Will that be broken? Maybe. It's possible. I think a big part of why we're just now breaking into, because here's the thing about fish, animals in general, and alligator gar fall into this category. Um, Typically speaking, the largest known specimen for an animal that is in decline tend to be in the past, and then the specimens that are caught or observed into the future get smaller and smaller. But with alligator gar, you have this interesting relationship where they are over. When I say in decline, I mean overall as a species. Like in Texas, they're starting to do a little bit better actually. But as a species overall, yes, they are in decline. You can find them in Texas, Mississippi, bits of Oklahoma, like bits, Louisiana, Alabama, and the very edge of Florida. Very edge of Florida. But you used to be able to find them all throughout the Midwest and into the Great Lakes. When people are saying like, "Oh, they're doing better in Texas now," it's like, yeah, but they should have been doing better all over the place. You used to be able to find them almost all the way to New York. The Lake Champlain monster was an alligator gar. Like the origin of that idea, Native Americans very specifically identified the alligator gar as being the animal they referred to as living in that lake. And then because white people always know best, they said, "No, you don't know what you're looking at. We think it's this instead. It's a giant dinosaur." No, but so alligator gar have this weird thing where they're in decline, yet the ones we're catching now, even after decades of decline, are proving to be bigger than the ones we knew existed before. And I think the reason for that is because it's an animal that we were very, very bad at catching alive a long time ago. When we were good at killing them, we almost killed all of them. But when you hear about people killing all of them, there's a couple of things to consider. Number one, um, the ones there were probably some that were caught that were 8.5 feet long. There are probably more that were caught that were 8.5 feet long back in the day. But people were either killing them and eating them for food with very little regard to sport fishing at all, especially in the South in the early 20th century, or they were being killed like electrofishing and stuff like that. Whereas like their dead bodies just float up and are left to rot. People did not care enough about the species to take note of their size. They just didn't like them, or they just wanted to eat them. Who cares? Who cares if it's a world record? Like that's not why you're fishing for it. You just want to kill it to feed a bunch of people. Like the world record concept wasn't even a thing back then. A lot of people who catch alligator gar, they just didn't care. So we are in this weird area now where although the species has declined enormously, now people are starting to care about how to catch them. They're starting to get good at it, and they're starting to care about the size of the ones they catch. So we're starting to get better at catching and observing the large ones, if that makes sense. Like, yes, people probably caught giant ones back in the day, but nobody cared about noting the size. This is the first time in history where, unlike elephant poaching, for example, where that has always been the point. The point has always been how heavy are the tusks. That was the whole thing about elephant hunting, was how big are the tusks. The entire drive behind the decline of that animal had to do with size. So that has always been noted. You read literature going back, 200 years about elephant hunting. Uh, this size is very carefully documented because that was the whole point. Whereas with alligator gar, that was never the point while killing them, and now while preserving them, that is becoming the point. It's kind of a weird backwards relationship to what happens with a lot of animals. So that's why I think we're noticing the bigger specimens in recent years. Let's catch a 10-foot bass. You know, the guy I was fishing was telling me about a fish. It's not a bass, but it's like referred to as like a some kind of like a some what did he call it? It's like a colloquial name, like a something bass, like a black bass. And a black bass technically is a family of bass. I can't remember if that's what he called it or not. Like black bass refers to the family of bass that you think of, like largemouth bass, Guadalupe bass, stuff like that. But he called it something bass, and it's not a bass at all. It's like a saltwater fish, although technically speaking, true bass are saltwater fish, like striped bass. But this is closer to being like a grouper, is what I'm thinking of. So when he called it a bass, it's not the actual accurate name for it. It's just what people commonly call it. And that thing, he showed me pictures of it. It was gigantic. He said it was like his favorite fish to catch. If I asked him, I said, bucket list fish, you could only catch one. Because this guy, by the way, the guy I was fishing with, who I will introduce all of you to in these videos, has caught more fish than anyone I have ever met in my life. And I didn't know this before I actually met him face to face, but he has an academic background. So he actually has a very scientific background and approach to what he does, and a scientific appreciation for the animals that he catches, which I didn't know going into the trip. I just talked to him like 3 times online before deciding to go on this trip with this guy. And then when I met him, I was like, "Oh, you have an academic, like scientific background. That's fantastic." So yeah, he talked about a fish that colloquially was referred to as a something bass. I can't remember. That was big like that. All right. Hey, love your channel and your throw net skills all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. That's so cool. My throw net skills being I know how to make people mad at me. No, I mean, there are guys out there who are much better at me with a cast net, but I am better at getting people to watch me throw it. Dude, did you see the Hammerhead video in Galveston? Yes, the one. I know right where that is. If you go over San Luis Pass, like you're going from Freeport into Galveston, and then you get off, and it's on like the left-hand side right there. That looked like the area that was in right there. So yeah, it was crazy. You'd be surprised how a few YouTube channels do a lot with traditional trash fish fishing, besides the occasional, getting tired, occasional sensational catch and cook. Yeah, it's a shame. There's so many interesting fish out there. Obviously, alligator gar are kind of like my thing, but like bowfin are tremendous fish to catch. What else would be considered a trash fish? Paddlefish, you can't really target those. I mean, like you got to do a snagging thing. Carp, obviously, carp are catching on. Carp, in fact, I would say I wouldn't even call them trash fish. I would say they fall into the category of coarse fish. They have been a primary fishing target in the UK for a very long time. So I'm not going to include them in the trash fish lineup like a lot of Americans do. Americans do that because they're uninformed about how the rest of the world regards that animal. The rest of the world regards carp in very highly. The rest of the world does not regard alligator gar very highly because they don't really have them. There's some down in Costa Rica, apparently, but the rest of the world doesn't make that same distinction for gar because they just don't have them. But they do have carp, and they do hold them in higher regard than a lot of Americans do. Definitely invited. They're a ton of fun. We should be on them within the next few weeks. That'd be so cool. I love Louisiana. I will look for any reason to go to Louisiana. The first couple of times I drove to Louisiana, like younger me, like 21-year-old me, 25-year-old me, I was like, oh, I hate driving to Louisiana. Because at the time, it was just like this big chunk of land between where I was and where I was going. So you think about it, like you go through Mississippi and Alabama so fast, Louisiana takes so long. So if you're on a trip to Florida or something like that, it's like, oh my God, how long is Louisiana going to be? Now, 10 years later, me in my early to mid 30s, I love Louisiana. I love New Orleans. I would very happily live there. So I'll look for any excuse to go to Louisiana. 1FC is brilliant. Free full fight card every Friday. Yeah, 1FC is great. The 4-ounce Muay Thai they do is fantastic. Ever going to catch a paddlefish? Maybe. Maybe. Grounded knee strikes in MMA, yes, it should be completely legal. There's no evidence to suggest that they're any more damaging than other types of grounded strikes. I mean, you can elbow somebody's head through the canvas, but you can't hit them with a knee when their fingertips are on the ground. Like, come on. Also, the one thing I will say, if they legalize knees in MMA now, I will be sad that we never got to see a Habib Nurmagomedov with grounded knees. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a Habib Nurmagomedov with grounded knees? And people will say like, oh well, Islam Makhachev. It's like, well, they have a very different grappling style. They really do. And obviously, any fighter with a strong grappling game is going to be more dangerous with knees to the if they're allowed knees to the head. I mean, Demetrius Johnson was one of the greatest top players of all time, and the moment they said you can knee people in the head, he started knocking dudes out with knees in the head. So I would have loved to have seen a Habib with legal knees to the head. Bring knee strikes on the ground back. Yeah, I agree. Also, that's like knees to the head. Soccer kicks. Typically speaking, soccer kicks are not as effective as people think they are. I think people when people say things like, "Oh, soccer kicks are too dangerous," Pride, bro, like in Pride. It's like, have you ever watched Pride? Like a lot of the times, dudes would try to soccer kick people, and they just couldn't find their head. They couldn't get around their opponent's guard. And if you did pass your opponent's guard standing, they would just re-guard as you tried to start kicking them. Like soccer kicks to the head are most effective when you severely hurt your opponent, and when they're used as like a finishing technique. That's when they're really effective. Jose Aldo finished like one of his first opponents in one of his first professional fights when he was like 18 years old with soccer kicks to the head, and it's terrifying. But yeah, I'm all for soccer kicks to the head. Will I ever live stream while fishing? No. I'll tell you why. Because number one, it would probably just be a couple of hours of me sitting on the bank waiting for a bite, and the phone would go dead before I got one. Number two, it's too hard to control a camera unless it's on a tripod or something while you're fishing. Number three, it would show the audience what I caught and would render the opportunity to use that video for the algorithm kind of useless. But more than anything, it's just the idea that like I would have to start the live stream as the line started going out to catch it on a live stream reliably. And even then, you never know. I lost 5 fish the other day. The Muay Thai bouts are awesome. Yes, 4 ounce Muay Thai is fantastic. Let's see. I'm reading your two comments in conjunction with each other, so I'm filling in the blank of what you meant to say. That gar, though, nice. That was awesome. Thank you. Bow, fisher, man, kill them all. Well, largely, yes. Bow fishing is extremely destructive towards alligator gar. Should not be allowed. Alligator gar should be classified as a game fish, and that should be taken off the table as an option. Your videos have brought an awareness of how cool gar are. I like to think so. Um, I'm not the first person to fish for them on YouTube, obviously, but I do think I've become the what's the word most mainstream in regards to like the public's perception of them. I really do think I've managed to do that. That would be a grouper, maybe. What would be a grouper? Something would be a grouper. Black sea bass. Yes, that's what he was talking about. Those things are massive. He showed me pictures of them. They're incredible. I wonder if they're actually. I was saying like, oh, they're not technically bass, but technically speaking, black. This is where we get confusing. This is why we use binomial nomenclatures so we avoid this problem. Black bass, as you think of it, as in like Guadalupe, largemouth, smallmouth, are not bass. They are, sunfish. Striped bass are actually bass. All true bass are saltwater. So I wonder if the black sea bass truly is in the same family. I will have to look that up to see if there's a relation there, or if it's just another one of those things where they call anything with a big face a bass. Do I think one day they'll make a law to not kill alligator gar? I do. I think we are headed in that direction. There was a couple of people who all started kind of making some headway on the preservation of the alligator gar all at the same time about a year ago. So my whole thing happened. They got this like international audience. People from all over the world were interested in the alligator gar, and as that happened, there were some incredible work being done in regards to establishing protections for the alligator gar from different like conservation groups and guys like Dr. Solomon David and the Gar Lab in Louisiana and things like that. Like that all just kind of came together at the right moment at the same time last year. And like they were officially classified as threatened a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw that, but alligator gar are now officially threatened in Texas, which is good. Not that they're threatened. A lot of times when an animal gets classified as like threatened or something like that, it's a bad thing to see because it means that they weren't classified as threatened before. But in this circumstance, um, it wasn't that there was a lot of them and now they're classified as threatened. It's that they were always they were always threatened, and the state just refused to regard them with any kind of value. But then they were like, well, actually, maybe they are important. Let's officially classify them as a threatened species. So the population didn't decline to get there. They have officially been considered important enough to be recognized in that regard to be considered threatened. So I do think we are on the path to getting them better protections. Yes. Let's see. No true freshwater bass. Yeah, as far as you know, I think that's correct. If the cast net opens, it opens. I agree. Do you plan on fishing the sewer plant again? Um, Eventually, yeah. I think I went there not too long ago, a few months ago. I don't. I try to if I have a really creative spin on a spot. Let's say we have one spot and I've done a video there. I will go back to it more than once if I have a creative spin on it, like a new type of bait challenge, or fishing a new way, like maybe cast net one day, lures the next day, for different videos. Or I'll go back to it if it holds gigantic fish. I'll go to the same spot if it holds giant fish. But that spot, I've done more than once. I've done more than one way. The types of fish I catch don't ever really change. So I would have to think of a new way to do it to make it worth going back, like in the near future. Let's see. Coarse fish is much better. Couldn't think of the word. In the U.S., it seems like trash or rough fish are more common terms. And you're right, carp definitely don't deserve that label. Yeah, I hate the term trash fish because it just why is a fish trash as compared to another fish? Like why? Why? If you don't eat, let's say you don't eat largemouth bass, because most people don't. They don't taste good. I've eaten them before in the past. They're not good. Most people who fish for bass would never eat one. They would cry if you ate one, and I'm not even mad about that. Like I wouldn't want to kill one and eat one. But then they'll say like, oh, but alligator gar are trash fish. It's like, oh, okay, hang on a second. If we're not eating the fish, and your primary concern is the sporting aspect, and your fish maxes out at like 12 pounds, unless you get supremely lucky and catch a world record. Like the biggest one you're ever going to catch is going to be like 12, 15 pounds, and that's like your lifetime fish. I can easily go out on any given day and hook into a 150-pound fish, of my species. And when I catch one that's, close to the world record, it weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 pounds. Yet that's the trash fish. Like, what the heck? It makes no sense. You know what it is it's old grumpy men being old grumpy men and not being happy that people don't want to do what they want to do. That's what it is. That's entirely what it is. My way is the best way. My traditions are the best traditions. You young whippersnappers these days need to do stuff the way I did it. It's like, no, your time's over. Deal with it. Ever caught a muskie? They remind me of a pike. Hello from the UK. Yeah, muskie and pike, incredibly similar fish, same family. I think muskie are essentially a type of pike, if I'm not mistaken. But I have not. I want to. I got some information on a reliable place to catch them, not too far away, actually. So I actually was thinking about planning a trip to go for muskie soon. Do you dispatch the occasional pleco you catch in the bait net? Not really. There are so many in the bayous. That's where I tend to catch them when I go bait fishing in the like the concreted section of the bayous, like Braised Bayou, things like that. When I catch those plecos, um, you just walk up to the bayou and you'll see like 150 of them just take off from the side of the bank. It's just pointless. It's pointless to try to kill one, and it's a waste of time, and it's also hard to kill them because they're armored. So it's like it's a lot of time to do something very difficult that is not enjoyable. I don't enjoy killing animals, and it doesn't serve any purpose. So no, usually I just find a way to untangle them from the net and just get them back. Let's see. Ta-ta. I was wondering. Oh yeah, I just read that one. Sent you an email as well. That was probably the little ding I got a moment ago on my phone. I'll look at it in a second. Would you ever try to do a freshwater drum catching video, possibly even catching Cook? I know Conroe's record for one is like 45 pounds. You know, I've long wanted to catch a freshwater drum in that 30 to 40 pound range. I just don't know where to go. It would be fun though, like on light tackle, like on light carp tackle. I think that would be a lot of fun. In the middle of something, can't stay and watch. Oh, just wanted to pop in real quick to say keep up the good work from Texas Jack. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. As someone who once worked at a zoo, how would you recommend the average citizen best determines which zoos to support? What characteristics make a zoo good or bad? So the very common answer that you'll hear from a lot of facilities is accreditation. That's the thing that gets thrown out there a lot. Look for zoos that are AZA accredited. But that doesn't actually. So, for those of you who don't know, I got to remember I'm talking to some people who know, a lot of people who don't. Zoos and aquariums oftentimes will be accredited by a governing body, if you will. AZA is the most common one, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. And then the other big one is WAZA, World Association of Zoos and Aquariums. Those are the two big accrediting bodies for zoos and aquariums around the world, specifically also within the United States. And a lot of zoos and aquariums look to gain AZA or WAZA accreditation. And basically, you have to attain a certain level of standards of animal care to achieve those accreditations. So, if you have a zoo that is AZA or WAZA accredited, that is a good start. You could look that up quite easily if your local zoo or aquarium is accredited by either of those two institutions. However, I will say that you don't have to be accredited by those groups to be a good zoo or aquarium. Accreditation is like, well, it's kind of like having a black belt, really. You know, you could be a great grappler and not have a black belt. Islam Makhachev does not have a black belt um, in any form of grappling, yet he would tie most black belts into knots because an accreditation proves that you're meeting the requirements of the accrediting body. It does not prove that someone who does not seek accreditation does not have the same level of quality. Does that make sense? So if you're not going off of accreditation, which can be, sometimes that's a sign that things are on the right track, sometimes it's not. If you're not going off of accreditation, what I would look for is I would look at your local zoo and aquarium and I would look to see what emphasis they place on modernizing animal care. So, does your zoo or aquarium really, really focus on what is convenient or traditional or popular? Or do they focus on changing step by step the procedures and layout of their facility to best implement the modern understanding of animal care? Because a zoo can lack accreditation from either of those two organizations and still be an incredible institution. Like just like you can be a great grappler and not have a black belt, NCAA wrestler is going to tie, uh, you know, a, a brown belt in knots. Maybe not a black belt, but an Olympic wrestler cannot grapple a black belt. And a black belt cannot grapple a wrestler. Like they're on equal terms. And a lot of these zoo institutions are on equal terms, even though this one sought out accreditation and this one didn't. They still meet the same quality. So accreditation is the easiest and quickest way to look to see if maybe they're on the right track. But if you want to go deeper than that, look at the quality of not the quality. I'm saying the emphasis they place on modernizing um, animal care as a priority. Do they change with the times, or do they try to stay in the old ways? That's the easiest way to tell. Can I do more gar fishing videos in the Brazos River? I am trying to catch more gar right now. All the rivers are just flooded. That's why I was having such a bad day the other day. Similarly, are there any animals that you believe should never be kept in captivity? Kind of. So, a lot of people have the wrong idea about how animals respond to the idea of captivity, and a lot of it is basically founded in anthropomorphism, which is basically assigning human thoughts and ideals and emotions to animals. Basically, the human thought process is not necessarily the same as animal thought processes. What animals want and need are more closely aligned than what humans want and need. You know, we will do all kinds of weird and bizarre things that are against our self interest because we want it, whereas an animal wants to do what is in its self interest. For the most part, there are some animals that have been with humans so long that they, ah, God, that they share a lot more of our traits. If you were going to safely anthropomorphize an animal, this one, for example, this is the most human animal on Earth, in my opinion. Not biologically, um, but emotionally, I think dogs are the most human animals on Earth, even more so than a lot of primates. Dogs have even actually evolved similar genes and facial muscles, like digestive genes to digest the same foods that we've eaten over the centuries, millennia that we've changed together. Dogs have more muscles in their face than humans do. I'm sorry, dogs have more muscles in their face than their cousins, like wolves, and their common ancestors with wolves did, to mimic human facial patterns. So, a lot of the discussion of animals being in captivity that is had, first off, it's had by people who don't know what they're talking about, which is most people. Most people have no clue what they're talking about in this regard. So it's being had by people who don't know what they're talking about, like Ellen DeGeneres doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about when she starts talking about elephants in captivity. It's like, you have a talk show where you talk to movie stars. You don't know jack shit about elephants. Um, and number two, it's done by people who project human wants, needs, emotions, and thought processes on animals. So when you have an animal potentially in captivity, what you need to recognize first is, number one, why zoos have animals in captivity. And it's never for entertainment purposes anymore. Well, going back to our conversation about what zoos and aquariums you should support. There are some zoos that are just like absolute hellholes for animals, but these are going to be zoos in like really really sketchy parts of the world. And when I say sketchy parts of the world, I'm not referring to any particular country. I'm referring to areas, even within America, the areas that have very little regulation about animal care and quality and things like that, where you are more free to exploit an animal. That's what I'm talking about when I say sketchy areas of the world. Um, but my dog's chewing on my just chewing on my thumb. Um, Zoos and aquariums typically serve several purposes. Number one, the vast majority of animals you'll see in a zoo and aquarium that fall under the standards I was just talking about, the good standards, the animals that they have typically were not born in the wild; they were born in captivity, or they are the descendants from animals that were born in captivity. A lot of them are rehabilitated animals. So if you go to the Houston Zoo, there's a number of, or at least there were when I was there. I was there like 10 years ago. Um, I was hired in 2011, so it's been like 5 or 6 years since I was employed there. But so a lot of the animals that I'm thinking about in my brain have since passed away from old age. But there were a lot of animals that you would see in the Houston Zoo. Cats, for example. The Houston Zoo is very good at specializing in geriatric cat care. And a lot of those cats were actually rescues from the kind of thing you would see on Tiger King. A lot of the cats the zoo had came from places like that, where they were horribly mistreated, or their private collections, because Texas is bad about that. Finally, they just passed a law that's going to outlaw that. But animals are at zoos for rehabilitative purposes, for educational purposes, breeding purposes, so trying to increase the population of an endangered animal, and because it is the best possible housing for animals that were already born in captivity that cannot be released into the wild. So that is the first misconception people have about animals in captivity. They think that we go out with ropes and tranquilizers and catch elephants, and it's not how it happens. That's how it used to happen. That's not how it happens anymore. So when you think about animals in captivity, the question becomes: can you provide for the animal the needs that are going to be met by the animal's environment in the wild? And a lot of people misunderstand what those needs are. A lot of people, lions are a good example because it's the most famous animal in the world, right? So when people come to the zoo, that's one of the first things they think about. It's the most famous animal in the world. It's a lion, and they think like, oh, the lions they just want to run and be wild and free. It's like, okay, first off, stop. Those two words you just used are human like perceptions of something that lions do not have. Second, when you say lions just want to run and run and run, it's like, no, they don't. They want to sleep most of the day. They want to get up when they have the opportunity to kill something or fight off an intruder, and then they want to rest again. Uh, when you actually see big cats in the wild, I use big cats as a good example because they're such a common focus among people that go to zoos and aquariums when it comes to this. Leopards have been observed to live their entire life in one tree and in the short area around it. They don't want this concept of freedom that humans have. They want to have that. They want to have their needs met. They want to have territory that they can protect. They want to have, the ability to reproduce and to eat and protect what is theirs. And a lot of cats in the wild will do that within a very small area that they like. This is my space, and they'll live in that area for all the majority of their life. You can meet the needs of animals like that in captivity. Where there's a difference is when you have an animal, and I think you probably already know where I'm going with this. When you have an animal that is, for lack of a better term, highly, highly, highly intelligent. So, again, when people use the word highly intelligent when they're talking about animals, all they really mean is it thinks more like a person. Because, you know, who's who's more intelligent? If you go out into the desert and a coyote survives and you die because you can't find water, who's the smart one? When people say, "Oh, it's so intelligent," they basically just mean like its thought process is more similar to a human's. So when you have an animal that has a thought process that is more similar to a human's, um, and the need for that thought process, the need for that animal to be psychologically healthy, ties in to its need to expand its territory further than captivity would allow, that is when you run into trouble. And you run into that problem a lot with cetaceans. So, dolphins, orcas, stuff like that. That is when you start getting into tricky territory where you really shouldn't have these animals confined because their emotional intelligence really is, unlike a lot of other animals, tied into the need for a greater amount of space than you can afford them. Also, there's little things you wouldn't think about. So if you guys have ever noticed orcas, they have a big orca, let's say 25, 27-foot orca, has a dorsal fin that sticks straight up, right? But then you'll notice the orcas in captivity have that famous curled fin, and it doesn't occur very often in the wild. It's very rare to see that in the wild unless it's a released specimen. And there's different theories about why that happens. The leading theory that I'm aware of at the moment, the one I think is probably accurate, even though I'm not a marine scientist, I'm not an expert to speak on this, but if I had to guess as to which theory I think is probably true, is the idea that because it's cartilage based, the orca's dorsal fin, because it's cartilage based, um, there's a considerable increase in the amount of time it's going to spend on the surface of the water, subject to gravity on its dorsal in captivity, because it has to come up to the surface more often in a confined space. And the gravity's effect on the cartilage is what causes it to curl over. Now, it's not a particular health concern. It doesn't like hurt the orcas to have a curled dorsal, but it goes to show that there are aspects of captivity that aren't necessarily going to be able to perfectly mirror the wild for certain animals. That's the thing. Captivity is kind of like a hospital in a way. Not to say that all the animals there are sick or anything, but in a perfect perfect utopian world, you wouldn't have one. The whole reason we have zoos and aquariums and things is because people keep fucking up the environment, and these animals desperately need to be protected. If people were to stop doing that, then yeah, you could stop complaining about animals in captivity because it wouldn't be necessary. It's necessary because the same people who are complaining about it do so much to cause it. So yeah, if there are any animals in captivity that I personally am uncomfortable with being in captivity, it would be the ones that have a combination of a high emotional intelligence that is very closely linked to those aspects of what they cannot achieve without being in the wild. So cetaceans are the ones that stand out to me. Most other animals that you could think of or name, even very intelligent ones like gorillas, for example, orangutans, stuff like that, their needs can be met in captivity by the incredible scientists and incredible care teams that zoos have. I think the average person, I'll leave it the topic on this conversation. The average person vastly underestimates the incredible level of education, training, and expertise that you have to care for these animals. Everyone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna work at the zoo and be a zookeeper." It's like, okay, well, you got like a bunch of school to get through first, and a bunch of unpaid training, and then years of working your way up the ladder to develop a legitimate expertise in a field before you work with these animals. You know, like, sure, some of it is just grunt work, some of it's just picking up after the animal, but the amount of training and education and expertise that goes into caring for animals in a zoo is far greater than the average person thinks it is. Let's see. Chicka chicka choo. Ditch pickles make great catfish bait. Oh, I believe that. I don't think we can do that in Texas, though. I'll get skinned alive for that. But yeah, I believe it. I don't care if your fish is bigger, it's ugly, and tastes bad. Oh, you're putting that in quotes. Quote, I don't care if your fish is bigger, it's ugly, and tastes bad, unquote. Seems to be going by the wayside since river monsters brought these giants to the attention of the people. Parentheses, my videos, of course, help too. Yeah, I should have. I guess for me, it goes without saying that Jeremy Wade is kind of like the most influential figure in the evolution of modern sport fishing. I think you're exactly correct. The appreciation for a variety of fish has grown more since 2005, the debut of the first episode of River Monsters, than it has in the 100 years before it, and it's largely because of him. Any YouTuber you want to name, me included, I mean, like anyone, only do what they do, in a fishing regard because of Jeremy Wade. Yeah, they would not have the opportunity to do it if it weren't for him. Hey, bro, good to see you. Good to see you, too, even though you're just a tiny little icon on the screen. Striped bass are considered true bass, but they're not. Interesting. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research into this. Where do you go garfish fishing? All over the place. I'm not going to give you exact spots, but basically, any of the major rivers in Texas, the Brazos, the Trinity, the San Jacinto, the Colorado, in some parts of the Colorado, and any of the major bayous within the Houston area, Buffalo Bayou, Brays Bayou, Sims Bayou, you can catch them in all these places. It seems that bass have always been the cool fish to catch, but the extreme commercialization of the sport is turning that tide. Species like catfish and gar are getting attention now. Yeah, I think a lot of it, honestly, is you can blame the state. I think I have a bit of a bone to pick with Texas Parks and Wildlife and other state agencies that prioritize the fish that will bring in revenue. Uh, there's a reason trout are more highly regarded than native species in areas where trout are the introduced species, and yet different state departments that are supposed to be protecting natural environments will put a greater emphasis in protecting the introduced trout because they make money back off of it. And I think that's a lot of what is going on with bass. They don't see, until recently, they don't see a lot of money in alligator gar. And that's starting to change. And wouldn't you know it, now they're threatened or officially classified as threatened. It seems like you got to represent the dollars to get any kind of recognition from the state, which is sad. Bro, if you garfish for the whole series, I would love it. They're such a majestic animal. I would too. I would too. Gotta spice things up for the algorithm. Also, there's some interesting things I want to do anyway, as you will see soon, with the videos that I've got filmed and am editing at the moment. Hello from San Antonio. Any trips planned out this way? Maybe. I have an idea I want to film in San Antonio. I need to do some more research on it though. Do you keep personal aquariums? No, I would love to, but I don't have the time for that. Also, I don't like the idea of thinking about like, are my fish gonna die if someone has to take care of them when I'm gone? Love your videos, bro. Just found your channel. Binge watched all your vids. Man, I appreciate it. Where do you go? Where do you go gar fishing? Because I want to go over the weekend. So I want to know where you go so I can go. I just answered that question. Look at any of those bodies of water and what you want to look for. Use Google Maps. You want to look for areas where, if this is the current going this way, right? You want to look for areas where there's maybe a bend and then an obstruction of some kind where the water will flow back on itself. So the main flow is going this way, and then some part of the water gets diverted and flows back on itself this way on the edge. Honestly, that is the biggest thing you want to look for. And yes, you can spot it on Google Maps. I'm not going to tell you exactly where I go though. Do you think keeping koi is an extension of the ego? I think that is too broad a statement to apply to a tradition that goes back thousands of years. I think that is entirely based upon the individual and their personal reasons. The thing I miss a lot at the Houston Zoo is the swap shop near the giraffes. Or specifically, it was over in the children's zoo, which was kind of like a straight line to the giraffes. I would show pictures of my now deceased okay, tortoise and talk about animals. Yeah, that was a victim of COVID-19, the pandemic. Basically, short-staffed the zoo so much that the swap shop became the lowest item in a priority of a zoo that was trying desperately to hang on to people to care for animals and take care of basic functions and guests and things. Unfortunately, that was the thing that had to fall by the wayside, which sucks because I loved it too. Also, there was some behind the scenes stuff involved as well. I don't want to get into with some of the people involved in the swap shop. Have I heard about the orcas attacking fishing boats? Yes, I have. So the theory is, nobody knows for sure, but the theory is that one of the orcas that was hurt by a fishing vessel, this is very likely true, was injured by a fishing vessel, is now teaching other orcas how to attack sailboats, which I'm not going to lie, is awesome. I think it's so cool. First off, it's just an amazing display of intelligence. I love it when humanity gets knocked down a peg. I really do. Uh, Going back to our discussion about like anthropomorphism and stuff like that, there is this bizarre concept, and I think a lot of it's tied to religion. There's this bizarre concept that humans are supposed to exist above animals. Like our status is to be greater than an animal, which is bullshit. And I like it when we get reminded that it is. So yeah, no, we are just one of many creatures on the earth, and sometimes those other creatures find ways of getting back at us when we don't regard them the way we should. So yeah, I'm on Team Orca. Hi from Slovakia. Hello. I don't think I've got a comment from Slovakia yet. Yo, wildlife lover, your videos, thank you. Do you still have a PC Fun sponsorship? No, we stopped working together a long time ago. If you're not at liberty to say, no, I'm at liberty to say. Went to their site to buy that nice travel rod you were using, but it seems like they've removed a lot. Oh, that's sad. No, I don't work with PC Fun anymore. Worked with them for a while, don't work with them anymore. Still a pretty good company. Still really good products. I'm not gonna be like, don't buy PC Fun. Like, their stuff works really well. I still use. I think I'm looking this way because I have a bunch of stuff sitting over there. The item of theirs I probably use the most is the one of their bait casting reels. I really like the Leos or 300, I think. I've kind of moved away from the what do you call it? The one I would always talk about, the reel that I've used for alligator gar. I'm trying to get away from those. They're a little bit too plasticky. I really do want to try to find a replacement, but it's been hard. It's been hard to find a a good metal reel with a high gear ratio and a level wind. A lot of the times, you can find a good metal reel with a high gear ratio. I'm sorry. You can find a good metal reel with a level wind, like this one right here. Very powerful reel. Very good level wind. Slow as shit, though. Like, you can't find those three things in conjunction with each other. It's very hard and very annoying. No, but since you asked who I'm working with, or if I'm working with them, I am working with Denali rods now, guys. As you'll probably see from the thumbnail of this live stream, I am a longtime user of Denali rods. The bottom feeder rods, so the alligator gar rods, the primary alligator gar rods. I've used everybody's rod. But they're the primary rods I've used for years, and that is the rod that caught me the biggest fish I've ever caught. The 300-pound gar was on a Denali heavy action, bottom feeder heavy action, and they are my favorite alligator gar rods, and they are now officially partners with our channel. So you will be seeing a lot more of their products being highlighted. I've always used them, now they'll just be highlighted. So definitely check out Denali and the bottom feeder series. They are unquestionably just the best gar rods on the market. And I've caught some sharks with them recently too. There's going to be some shark stuff coming up, and I used Denali rods to catch them. I also used a Denali rod to catch the big fish I was telling you about. That's coming up in one of my videos that smoked the Daiwa BG reel. I landed it on a Denali bottom feeder, medium heavy, and it was the hardest fight of my life of any fish, and that rod got it in. So check out Denali products. Koi farmers, unfortunately, definitely commonly practice poor fish handling and transportation techniques, acclimation, and cross-contamination. Yeah, I would imagine a lot of people do. There's this one group, I can't remember who it is, that I follow on Instagram. They're the guys at Carl Smith of Fish with Carl and Alex Fishing. They're the group that he works with, and they're really, really good. Naturally, they're in the UK. So the reverence for that fish is much higher over there. So the care for those fish is much higher over there. But I can't remember the name of that group. I follow them on Instagram. If you follow Carl Smith from Carl Fish with Carl, you can find their group. But a really good koi dealership that really emphasizes the proper care of the animal. Big fan out of Kentucky. Hey, what's up? Let's see. Oh, I was trying to read your comment. I wasn't seeing the bottom of it. Your crew digs the vids. We support you. There's about 59 of us. That's awesome. Thank you. My favorite fast food. I do not like fast food very much. I try to eat pretty healthy most of the time. I will occasionally eat fast food because I spend so much time on the road here and there between fishing spots and stuff. But I do not like fast food at all. If I had to choose, probably In-N-Out. Sales X 3000, yeah, that's the one. I'm trying to move away from that one. I just don't think they have the longevity that a lot of other metallic reels do. Just wanted to say thank you for all you do, man. Your content is unmatched in the field of wildlife conservation education, especially in regards to fish and fishing. I always look forward to your videos. I really appreciate it. And I always appreciate that you ask me the wildlife questions because that's the whole point of the channel. And that's what I actually want to talk about the most. And people, they, quite normally and understandably ask me like, oh, where should I go to catch alligator gar? What hook do you use? What line should I buy? And it's like, oh, that's not really why I wanted to do the YouTube stuff. And then you get on here and you're like, what's your opinion on this particular animal in captivity? I'm like, okay, here we go. This is what I want to talk about. Favorite level line reel I use for flathead catfish is the Okuma CLX 300 Pro. I just screenshot that so I could look it up later. Denali makes great rods, especially their Prime series. Yes, they do. They do. The Prime series. I have one right here, actually. I'm having trouble. The line's getting tangled. Yes. I'm breaking everything in my house. The Prime series rods are great. Get yourself one. I got some videos coming up with the Prime rods soon. Anyway, back over here. All right, let's see here. Let's start wrapping this up. What's the possibility of getting a pen sponsorship? Probably pretty low because I don't like their stuff very much. Although I did buy a pen reel today, actually. Daiwa, man. Daiwa's the one I want. When Daiwa comes knocking, I will answer. Favorite snake? Oh, man. Oh, that's hard. That's hard. But probably, if I had to pick, I might go with reticulated python. Oh, man, there's so many. I love taipan as well. Ever gonna go back to the mountain lion spot? Seemed like a juicy spot though. Possibly. I was thinking about filming a video there, but I know based on the weather conditions that that spot's gonna be flooded right now, and it's already kind of hard to fish even when it's low. So probably not soon. All right, I think we're just about ready to check out of here. Nice coach whip back in the day. Oh yeah, the video is coming up by the way, guys. Where I went on this trip, I caught some snakes on the trip. So there's going to be some snakes on the one of the videos coming up. So very happy about that. Let me just give you guys a bit of a warning here, and say a warning, an explanation, and we'll wrap things up with this. So on this trip, I think I filmed like 4 or 5 videos. I can't remember. I haven't edited it all yet. One of those videos will be on. What do you think? One, two. Yes, one of those videos will be exclusive to Patreon. 2 of those videos are going to be, actually 3 of those videos, I'm going to say, are going to be really YouTube algorithm friendly, awesome. And then the last one, the big video I'm going to edit, it's going to be the biggest video out of the trip. And it's going to feature that fish that I was talking about, the gigantic one. That video, I intentionally decided to film much more in line with the way I kind of want to make films. So it's not going to feel like some of the stuff I've made in the past. It's still going to be an awesome video. It's going to be one of the best videos I've ever done. Maybe the best video I've ever done. But it will not feel filmed quite the same. The style will be a bit different. But what you will see will actually be much closer to what I've always wanted to do. So I'm very excited about some of the videos coming on up. All right. And you know what? While I'm here, let me just go ahead and shout out the group that I went with. Because, like I said, this guy catches so many fish, you're not going to guess where we went. Because he's all over the country all the time. Even out of the country all the time. I'm going to go ahead and shout out Spencer from Terra Firma Tackle. Terra Firma Tackle. Spencer. That is the gentleman that was gracious enough to take me on this trip. He was going all over the country on this trip. And he's like, hey, I know you want to catch a certain fish within this stretch of this trip I'm doing. Like, come with me, we'll get it. And we did. So massive shout out to Spencer from Terra Firma Tackle. Go to Terra Firma Tackle. You can find them on Instagram or their website. Just definitely check out their gear because their gear is amazing and it works really well, as you're going to see in one of these videos. All right, guys, I am checking out of here. I got to go watch Charles Oliveira and Benil Dariush throw down, and I got a bit of a drive on the way out there. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much, everybody, so many people for checking in on an impromptu live stream on a day where I was not feeling very good. It really does make my day that you guys showed up. I really do appreciate it. All right, I am headed out of here. Y'all have a good one.